light of the new USCIS policy memo, here is a demonstration of a mock adjustment of status interview.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Welcome back to your adjustment of status interview.
Good afternoon, officer.
Thanks so much for coming.
Thank you for the time and the opportunity.
So let's pick it up. Last we spoke, we were reviewing your application, and I have a few questions for you
Sure.
about your decision to come to the United States and now applying for your adjustment. So why should USCIS grant the extraordinary privilege of granting your adjustment of status within the United States rather than requiring you to consular process in your home country?
Okay, officer. As you know, I got married, and my spouse is a U.S. citizen. After I came to the country and entered here, I was pregnant and I gave birth to a child. But in addition to just being a homemaker and a full-time mother, I've also contributed significantly to the community that I live in and thrive in. I do social work, I do volunteer services, I attend the church, do weekly services, partake in weekly services. I do also volunteer at the food bank, and I've brought here a certification of completion from a nonprofit that works with victims of domestic violence and trafficking in Sacramento County, and I volunteer my time with them as well. So I believe, other than just my immediate family, I've also dedicated my time and energy to enrich the community that I live in. So I hope USCIS will grant my adjustment of status application today in light of these factors.
What extreme or unique hardships would you or any U.S. citizen relatives you might have, or if you're employed, your employer, or if your husband's employed, his employer, face if you were required to return to your home country?
Okay, yes. As I said, my infant child is very little. If I had to return to my home country, she'd be accompanying me. She's a U.S. citizen. It'd be extreme hardship for her to go to my home country, and she would definitely be missing the state-mandated physical exams all through the first year of her life, which would be detrimental to her development and physical health. My husband would, who's also a U.S. citizen, would suffer financial loss because he'd have to sustain two households, one in the home country and one in the United States, for himself. And like I said, I believe my church and the nonprofit organization where I volunteer would miss me a lot.
Okay. Let me ask you about your entry to the United States.
Okay.
So walk me through the exact timeline. You entered the U.S. on, let's see here, it looks like October 3rd, 2022, as a B2 non-immigrant, temporary visitor.
Right.
But you got married here, and you began the green card process here within, it looks like, about a year. So how do you reconcile that with your intent to stay temporarily on your tourist visa?
Right, yeah. I did come in as a visitor, and my intent was, like I mentioned my sister earlier, I was just visiting my sister in Texas, and my visit was supposed to be short and temporary. I ended up meeting my husband, who was then a friend of my sister's husband, after about 4 months of my stay in the United States, and it was through a mutual party, mutual friend contact. So once we met, we hit it off as friends, and then we started seeing each other a little bit more. So by the end of, when it was towards the end of my 6 months mark in the United States, he actually proposed to me and said that he was interested in getting to meet, married to me. And I think it was very organic, sort of the way our relationship developed from that point onwards. We ended up getting engaged after 6 months, after another 6 months, and another 2 months we got married. So I took the time I needed to take to get to know him, and I'm glad I did, because I have a good life now. But that's how I ended up overstaying my visa and married my husband after 9 months of being in the United States.
Okay. Have you ever accepted, let's see, $1 of unrecorded cash or digital payment for any task, side gig, or remote work that is not explicitly authorized under your non-immigrant visa?
No, I have not, and I thankfully haven't needed to. My husband does work in the IT sector, and he provides for all my needs, lodging, food, and general expenditure, and takes care of my healthcare needs and all financial needs. I don't have to. I didn't have to work. In fact, with the free time that I have, in addition to my child rearing abilities, I've been able to dedicate that to volunteer services. So I haven't had to work and accept side jobs in return of cash.
I do see here that your husband is your sponsor.
Right.
Does he still have the same employment?
He does.
So I'd now like to ask you about a previous application that you filed. So when you applied for your tourist visa, you filed what's called a DS-160. This was about 5 years ago you filed your application, and you omitted your employment at TCI Incorporated, but it appears on your current application. I don't see TCI listed here. So why did you exclude them on this application?
You know, that was a while ago, officer, but it had to be on account of a clerical error, either because the 485 form is quite lengthy and it affords us the additional exhibit pages, and I'm not too sure if I had the space or the ability to feed in that information on my DS-160, but it wasn't intentional. And it was a very short-term employment at TCI.
How long was your employment there?
Less than 6 months.
And are the dates on your DS-160 correct as far as your employment there?
Yes.
During your B2 visa interview at the consulate, you stated that your intent to come to the United States was for a brief vacation. Like you said, you were coming to see your sister, but at that exact same time, around shortly after you entered the U.S., you have a social media post that shows that you were looking for housing and potentially even employment. So why did your stated intent for coming contradict with your actual conduct at that time?
Oh, yes. Like I said, I met my husband, now my husband, then my fiance, about 4 months after I had stayed in the United States on a B2 visa. And we started dating, and our courtship period was for like another 3 to 4 months from that point onwards. And during that time, when we were dating, and he had already proposed to me, and we were going to go get married and finalize, basically tie a knot, he had delegated a lot of duties to me. Like I said, his career keeps him pretty busy and occupied, so finding housing and working out other logistical matters for us to cohabit had become my duty in the relationship. And I believe the post that you're referring to is from the time period that I was already engaged with my now husband, then fiance, and we were already dating. So I wasn't looking for housing for myself to alone. It was in anticipation of the marriage that took place within a few months of that point.
Okay. So let me add these changes to your application. What we'll do is we'll print it out.
Okay.
You'll get an opportunity to review the changes and sign, okay?
Okay, that works. Thank you.